evolutionary process going on. But mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Welcome, everybody. How we doing today on this beautiful Friday, June 23rd, broadcasting to you guys here on the south side of Chicago from the DCF studio. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of DCF Live. Today, we're going to hang out. Hopefully, we'll do some Instagram reviews or check out some of your work. I'd like to get to some of that today and just talk to you guys about what's been going on here. So this week, I have been doing for the last few days, working on a pretty cool pair of shoes that you guys are going to be hearing about early on. I'm making these with the intention of getting them to another YouTuber by the name of Max Tuning. I want to say I've spoken about this before on an episode of DCF Live, maybe somewhere else, but he's a YouTuber that I've watched for years, and he started in the fitness industry, and then he ended up starting a candy company, and the candy company has exploded over the last few years, and now they're in some really big chains. They're here in Targets in Illinois, so a lot of you guys might have seen it before, but the company his candy brand is Sour Strips, and I have been working on a pair of Sour Strips Jordans for him. I am pretty far along on these. I'm almost done. Really excited with how they've turned out. So they have these really cool little characters on the bags and on all of the branding. And then I did there's a really cool intricate pattern with just other little characters and icons throughout, some splatter. So I have absolutely no idea at all what the plan is for getting the shoes to him, or getting him to unbox them and get, hopefully some content or imagery out of that. I'm taking a shot in the dark on this one. I'm shooting my shot, and we'll see how it goes. And I think it's just an interesting experiment that I can showcase to you guys early on. At this point in the process, I have no idea how it's going to turn out, how they'll be received. Hopefully, of course, he'll like them. But, I have no idea if when he gets them, if he'll want to post them, or, I think he's, you could kind of call him like a vlogger, essentially, if he'll want to unbox them on camera, hopefully. But it would be really cool. So we shall see. I am excited about that. Last week, we finally dropped a color shifting video where I was working on a couple different Air Forces, and I tested out a ton of different pigments from Solar Color Dust. That video has been long requested. People have always asked me, have I ever worked with color shifting pigments before? And I hadn't. I had always said, my response was always, I'm waiting for the perfect project to come up. That project essentially never came, where I felt the need to want to use those, but I still knew that not only did I want to see how they actually worked, but I knew that I wanted to hopefully answer a lot of the questions, so that when people ask me, what's it like working with them? What do I need to know? I would be more equipped to answer some of those. So during that video, I worked on, this was just a scrap Air Force One, and I tested a lot of the different pigments on these. So this was like a kaleidoscope pigment. This one's called an oil slick pigment on the swoosh. The teal one here is a chameleon, so kind of shifts, not as much as the oil slick, but kind of shifts in different lighting. And what's interesting is on the quarter panel, or on this little back ankle panel, this is the exact same pigment as this one here that's on the swoosh and that lower back panel as well. So this is what happens when you paint that pigment against a white base. This is what happens if you paint that up against a black base. So depending on the base color that you have underneath, that will also help you get different results. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then this light purple color, kind of it's not a lilac certainly, but kind of like a medium-ish purple. It's not a dark purple either. That is a UV one. So this one changes with a heat gun. So that was the hardest one to paint from my experience. Those right there, the UV ones, thermo-activated ones. I think that those need to be airbrushed to get a nice clean result. Um, but I had just experimented. I just tested everything hand painting first just to see if it would work, since more people hand paint than airbrush. And the results were not good for the thermo activated ones, but everything else looked pretty good, just hand painting. And then here's a pair, another Air Force where I did that oil slick pigment all over. And I think that this looks incredible. Just as you turn it in the light, you get more purple, more blue. Really, really, really stoked with how that one turned out. I don't think I mentioned it in the video, but I decided to go with a satin finish on these rather than just going with the matte finish that I do for 95% of the time. I wanted to keep a little bit more of that gloss, that sheen, so I went satin instead of matte. And I scrapped it from the video, but I actually filmed myself painting black laces. I was curious if the laces would end up with a lot of that color shifting ability, being that they're cotton versus leather. So since this was painted against a black base, everything that you see that's kind of purple right now was black first. I decided to grab some black laces, paint them with that oil slick pigment, and see if the laces would color shift as well. But unfortunately, that didn't work. There was a very minimal amount of shimmer. I'm curious if it would have worked if I tested it against white laces. Maybe, maybe not. But that ended up being scrapped from the video because I didn't even end up using the laces. But I thought that it was a interesting experiment. I did it on the stitching here as well. You can kind of see the colored stitching. It doesn't shift as much, so might have been worth experimenting. But I imagine these probably work best on leather. Excuse me. Excuse me. Leather versus, the stitching is, soft cotton or whatever the case is. So, yeah, a fun experiment working with those different pigments. And if you're interested in testing any of those out, the company Solar Color Dust gave me a discount code. So I have it linked in the description of this video. It's a 10% off coupon for you if you decided to test any of those out. You just use the code DCF10 at checkout. Save yourself 10% if you want to try some of them out. Most of them are very reasonable. A lot of the pigments are in the like $5 to $12 range, and you can get multiple enough of a mixture to do multiple shoes. So it's worth testing. Hey Eddie, how you doing, buddy? I love how the color shift came out. Thank you, man. Do you think you would try the color shift on football cleats? I do. I'm really excited to do something with that for football season. I'm not sure what yet. If I want to do a thermo activated, a UV activated, but I do want to do something for sure. I think that that'll be really cool. To test that out. Being that they're out in the sun the whole time, it would be fully exposed to the UV, so I wouldn't be able to get it to shift back to, the non-light exposed. But I just have to come up with a clever enough design to do some. What is the fastest way, in your opinion, to sketch a character on a shoe? Stencil? If you're just trying to sketch a character on the shoe, I think that the image transfer technique is going to be your best one. So you just trace the image out on tracing paper, All you need to do is find whatever reference image you want to do, scale it up to the size you want to place it on the shoes, trace it in reverse on tracing paper with a pencil, and then once you hold that paper onto the shoe, you'll be able to sketch all of that line work onto the shoe. That's what I found to be the easiest, unless you're ready to dive into the world of stencil making with characters. We put out a tutorial probably about a month or so ago, and it was me doing a Naruto character onto a pair of Jordan 1s, and that walks you through the process of how to create a character stencil with that. So if you have access to a vinyl cutter, if you're ready to dive into that world of playing with more intricate stencils, then absolutely go with something like that. When are we getting a Fast and the Furious shoe? It'd be kind of cool to do a something maybe inspired by Brian's car in the first movie, the orange. Is it a... Man, I haven't rewatched the first one in a while, but does he drive a Honda in the first movie? That might be kind of cool. Um, but other than that, now you're just making an explosion and fire burning and flames and and crazy stuff going everywhere movie. This is my buddy Ryan, and he's a big Fast and the Furious movie fan. The part where I almost lost it, Ryan, was in the final scene when Vin is going uh down that dam, and it just it goes to all CGI, and it's just him and his son in the car, and the cameras are rotating. And finally, since Vin's hands are on the steering wheel, the final movement, of course, Vin, with his massive ego, says, I want the final camera movement to be showcasing the camera going down my muscles into the steering wheel of the car. And it was just this ridiculous slow mo CGI. I thought it looked terrible. I audibly gasped, you got to be kidding me. To that scene. But yeah, I'm so glad those movies are a part of our lives and have been since we were 9 years old. Here we are in our 30s and we still get to enjoy them, man. Gotta love them. Gotta love them. Let's see here. Oh, we got our first super chat of the day. Thank you so much, Jacob. Really appreciate you, man. That means a lot. Really appreciate you supporting the channel like that, my dude. You know what? I need to, I'm going to pull those up too. I need to showcase your final, the Ninja Turtle shoe, because I showed pictures. I think it was in the last stream. I showed some pictures, of you at the event, and now I want to be able to showcase the final result, man, because those turned out pretty sweet here. Let's see. Jesse says, I've got a client that I'm doing a Jordan 1 themed after my client's Mustang. That's dope, man. That's really cool. That does it have like a wicked paint job on it that you get to do something cool with it? Let me know about those, Jesse. But yeah, that sounds awesome, man. That sounds awesome. I did a pair based off of, well, it has elements of the yellow Camaro from the Transformers that Bumblebee becomes into. I love that first Transformers movie. So it's a pair of Jordan 6s, and on the toe box I have those stripes that are on the hood of the car. And yeah, those are really cool, man. Those are really cool. Greetings from Portugal. Howdy. Thank you for joining us. Most of the times I use tracing paper. I'm thinking of upgrading to a stencil printer. Thanks, by the way. Amazing videos. Really helped me to kick up my customs business. That's awesome. Appreciate that. Always glad to hear that. Yeah, send me an email with them, Jacob, and I can pull those up really quickly. Love the Blink-182 shoes. Thank you so much. Let me pull those up as well here. This was a really fun pair to do. I said it in the caption of my video. Let me pull these up. This was a recent pair of Blink-182 shoes I did for somebody. A woman reached out to me, said that her boyfriend was a super fan, and she wanted to get him a birthday gift. And she sent me some images of, they were, if you ever Google, like, let's just say you searched up Blink-182 shoes, you might see like some of those knockoff shoes that are from China, and they're like the shoe kind of looks like a Jordan 1 or an Air Force 1, but it's not. She sent me something like that and said, I love these, the way that the colors are laid out and stuff. And she said, but you go ahead and do your thing, something based off the self-titled album. So I thought, oh, okay, awesome, man. I've always loved that album. I that's one of those albums that's on a ton of merchandise and stuff. So as I was starting to plan them out, I was really excited to do it, and I thought, there's a very tricky balance to try to strike when it's a rather simplistic album cover. You know what I mean? It almost has like brush strokes to it, like the teal and the hot pink, and then the big logo in the middle. So I had to play around for quite a while in Photoshop to make sure I liked the balance of everything. I knew I still had to keep a lot of the shoe white, and that's hard for me to do. That's harder to do than it should be. My instinct is always to paint everything, so it's hard to keep a lot white. But nonetheless, this was one of my favorite commissions to do in a while. I'm a big Blink-182 fan. this was just like one of those pairs. I said it in the Instagram caption, but this was one of those pairs that just reminded me of like how much I love this craft, how much I love to do what I do. Like the entire time I was doing these, I was just having a blast. I was watching a bunch of Blink sets at Coachella and stuff. And, you know, hopefully everybody gets to experience, you know, one of those pairs every so often where you just remember how much you love doing this, you know what I mean? Because it's easy to get bogged down and get stuck in you know, I call it the hamster wheel of constantly just doing commissions for other people. Maybe you're taking on projects that you're not as passionate about. So when you get to do something that, you know, is a source material that you really enjoy or something like that, that can make it a lot more fun for you. So yeah, this was really cool. Also, I want to show real quickly. I did a little, um, just a little video for them. So I didn't make a YouTube video out of the Blink 182 shoes, but I just filmed some clips of me doing them, just so I can make like a little Instagram reel, YouTube short, and it's very, very, very simple. Actually, it won't even have the same effect because you won't get to hear the sounds, but it's all literally just 1 second clips. And it's just me unboxing the shoes, but I have the audio as well. So I posted this to Instagram and YouTube already. But this is the type of stuff that you can do for every single project that you make. I think this video is 27 seconds long, so there's 27 cuts. I just film yourself for 1 second every time you're doing a new action on the shoes. You know what I mean? And this is something that you can create for literally every single project and, you know, not run out of content. Everybody's always looking for what type of reels, what type of, you know, video should I be doing. Something like that will literally work for every single project that you do. You know what I mean? You can't go wrong. So good to know what options you have for stuff like that, because believe me, I run into it all the time. I have no idea what to film for something like this. I don't know what type of reel is going to work best for this project, but that stuff always performs well, and it's already gotten a bunch of views for us over on Instagram and such. Let's see here. Tempest says, "Hey Dylan, will you be doing an update video on some new products that you discovered or found to work better now than maybe a year ago?" That's a great question. I think the last time I did like a big I think the video is called like customizing shoes. Here's everything I use, and it's like all of my supplies laid out. I think that video is over 2 years ago now. So in terms of what I use, it's still pretty similar, but I do think there's a new way that I could probably package a video like that. I have a video coming out really soon. I if anybody watches me regularly, I truthfully do say this about every video, but I have a video coming out soon that I'm excited about, where it's I think the video is probably going to be titled something like 10 tricks I use on every pair of shoes that I paint. And you could think of it as almost all of these are tips that you guys have heard if you've watched a lot of my videos. But there's one that I haven't really talked about in a video before for sure. But it's just sort of my greatest hits on tips that will work for every single shoe. So I think that'll be like a super, it's a video where if you're starting out, how can I best say this? These are the types of tips that aren't necessarily out there where you really only learn these tips from making mistakes first. And I think I mentioned that in the intro of the video, something about making mistakes. So yeah, I think that video is just, it's like a really, really useful down and dirty video that's going to help a lot of people. But yeah, I do think a video on new products would be beneficial for sure. I'm trying to think of if there's anything in the toolkit that's vastly different than that video from a couple years ago. Airbrush is still the same. Paintbrushes are pretty much the same. Paints pretty much still the same. I'm sure there is some supplies. I actually think in that video I might not have had the glue and residue eraser yet. Maybe I did, but that's a super useful tool that I do use every day now. Jesse says, mostly a pewter color, but I'm going to attempt some carbon fiber texture on the back. We'll see how that turns out. Damn, that'll be really clean if you can, nail that print. Carbon fiber is not going to be an easy one to print, but that'll be really damn cool, man. That'd be really cool. Let's see. Jacob sent me over an email. Let me get those pulled up. Almost downloaded. Here we go. It's a .rar file, so I don't know if I can... Let me see if I can unzip it here on my phone. Might need to do it on my computer. I'm going to pull them up on your Instagram real quick, Jacob. That'll probably be quickest. Here we go. Switch over. All right. Check these bad boys out. Killer shots, too, man. I love the location you found for them. But just going to quickly swipe through for everybody, and we'll zoom in on some of the details. Yeah, I would love to have a location like this to shoot at, man. Just a spot with a bunch of graffiti and all these different textures you could shoot against. That's killer. Great shots. Okay. Let's take a look. Look at that. Killer, man. I still think the dripping pizza is probably my favorite part across that I Stay panel. But the TMNT logo on the sewer on the back tab, it's hard to pick a favorite part about these. I mean, the character work is incredible. And how you went and actually, even right here, you could tell Donatello versus Michelangelo, how they have totally different shades of green, skin, essentially, that you had to put in that work to create those different shades. I mean, Donatello is way more of an avocado paint color than Michelangelo's. I mean, geez, this color right here, I would love to know what you ended up using for Michelangelo's skin. Let me know, Jacob, if you're still watching. What is the main base color for his skin there? Because that shade of green is absolutely nowhere near Angelus green or light green. Oh, boy, did you have to mix a lot of blue into there to get that? I would love to know. Or was it a lot more yellow? No, it wouldn't be more yellow into the light green or anything. You probably had to mix like a lot of blue or turquoise into that for his skin. But yeah, killer work here, man. Let's see the toe boxes. Those are on the first slide. Yeah. So dope. So dope. And then the Mikey Air, Cowabunga on the tongue tag. Crush those, dude. Crush those. But let me know about Michelangelo's skin there. I'd love to. If I had to guess, I would guess that you probably had to mix a lot of turquoise or blue into your green to get that. Emma's Custom Sneaker Shop says, how did you get your first shoes to paint? I ordered everything I need but shoes, and my airbrush fell apart. I feel like just not showing it. Your first shoes to paint. So I wasn't able to comfortably use an airbrush for like my first 5 years of painting because, one, there's a few reasons. One, I kept just using cheap airbrushes and cheap compressors. And another huge reason is because Angelus paint used to be much more thick and they didn't have Too Thin. Too Thin has only been out for maybe like 7-ish years. I first started like 13 years ago was when I painted my first shoe. So, I was pouring much thicker paint into much cheaper airbrushes. So no wonder it wasn't working for me. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what I had to do for a long time. So just getting comfortable with an airbrush, it is a massive hurdle to tackle, but once you finally do, you feel a whole lot better. Jonathan Adams says, do you have to get a license to sell certain characters on a shoe? Don't take my legal advice, Jonathan, but for the most part, you do not, as long as you are creating, one-of-one fan art. It starts to become a different conversation if you're mass producing. But for a lot of the stuff that 99.9% of people are doing, you're okay. Vitor here says, "Hey Dylan, can you do a short or video where you show shoes that you made years back, just to see how the day by day affects the shoe?" Yeah, that's a great idea. I really like that. That could absolutely work for a short or a video. That's a good one. I definitely will do something like that. David here says, "Do you have a intro step-by-step video to final product?" So, David, the video that I do recommend, if you're just starting out, you're looking for like an all-encompassing tutorial, it's a video on our channel, and the title of the video is just Custom Air Force One. I believe we have it linked in the description of this video. Under the description, there's a title here, and it says Recommended Videos, and there's one that says Beginner's Guide, How to Prep and Paint. I would check that one out. But I do have another one of those coming soon as well. Just like a really good detailed step-by-step. Like ideally it's a video made for somebody who has maybe never watched any custom shoe content before. Do plan on doing one of those. When are we doing Neymar shoes? Whenever somebody wants to commission me to do a Neymar shoe, I would be more than glad to do so. Hi from Belgium, Dylan the Goat. Thank you so much, Ghost Mike. Belgium, very cool, man. Never ceases to amaze me. Never ceases to amaze me where people come from. Belgium. Got a heck of a national soccer team. Samaya here says, "How do you bring old paint back to life?" So it totally depends on how old it actually is. Like, has it been exposed for a while to where now it's way too thick? In most situations, there's a good chance that it might be best to scrap it. But something that you can do to thin it out a little bit is adding in some of that Angelus Toothin. So if you have some paint that's, a paint bottle that maybe it was left open or something like that, maybe it's just a couple years old or something and you want to use that color again, if you add a little bit of Toothin, that'll thin it out again, make it more usable. But there's a lot of situations where it's probably best to not use it. If it's become too thick, the more too thin you're adding, you're just diluting it and taking away some of those, chemical properties of it. Jacob here says, "Yeah, so I used light green and balanced it with a bunch of blue and a little white and maybe a touch of black to mute the yellow out." Okay. Yep. That makes sense. That makes sense. Emma's Custom Sneaker Shop. "If I order, will you show the shoes on your YouTube?" Absolutely. Yeah, I don't show a lot of my commissions that are on a time crunch basis, which is a lot of the orders that I end up doing, because filming myself takes a long time. And anytime I get a new order, I try to think, one, do I have the time? But two, what would be like, what is something that I'm going to be doing with this shoe that is maybe something I could turn into a tutorial or something like that. You know what I mean? So if I was doing a Neymar shoe, we'd have to discuss the design. Are we doing it, with the Brazil colors? Are we doing it more with his club colors? What are we doing on there? And then, once I know more about the design, then we could go on to what would make for the best content out of that design and turn that into a YouTube video. Fly Off here says, "Is acetone and Angelus DeGlazer the same thing?" They are essentially the same thing. I believe that acetone is probably a little bit stronger because I think it smells even stronger. Like if you just, have the bottles opened, I think that acetone has a little bit more of a strong scent to it. So if I had to guess, acetone might be a tad stronger, but Angelus DeGlazer and acetone will essentially do just about the same thing. Neeks, how you doing, buddy? Hey, Dylan, when do you think we will see episode 818 of Reviewing Our Customs? Probably still a few months away, just based off of what I have planned in my head for the YouTube calendar. Probably a few months away, my man. Ghost Mike here says, is there a way to paint rubber parts of Air Jordan 4s, like the cages, sides, and tongues, with the paint peel off due to laces friction? I am not a fan of ever really painting rubbers or plastic. So if I'm doing a Jordan 4, I want to not have to paint those parts. So for example, I did a let me pull them up. The most recent pair of Jordan 4s that I did was a Dior pair. So this was I believe the colorway of this shoe is called Military Black. So the wings, all of this was not painted because it's, rubbery plastic. I just don't think that those materials hold up as well long term. The cage, that netting, none of that's painted there. So just sort of the gray and the vanilla colors are painted here, and then the Dior print. But yeah, I don't believe that those materials hold up as well long term. So I tried to avoid those. Nuno Santos. Same name as a famous soccer coach. That's cool. How do you paint in the stitches without too much paint? Are you talking about on the midsole or on, just the stitching on the upper? Let me know which one you're referring to. Could you try to put Neymar's face on the shoe? I sure could. Sure could. Gotye, my pal, how you doing, man? On creating reels, what tips would you give to someone that's working alone? The DCF reels look so cool, but out here I'm alone and need my two hands to paint. You need to get yourself somewhere you can set up your camera or your phone, whatever you're going to be using to record. So one of the biggest factors there will be how much space do you have, since most of the time we're limited by space. You might not be able to get as crazy of a rig to mount your camera and whatnot. But even if you have a tripod that you can do a lot with, you just set up your tripod, put your camera, get a little camera. Do I have one near? Yeah. Get one of these little mounts for your camera. These mount to almost any tripod. And then, I could just put my my phone on here and record myself. So yeah. And then yeah, just record the process, man, and then, chop it up, make some cool reels out of it, and go from there. JC Texas Art says, hi from Laredo, Texas. When is the next contest? Good question. I do not have a contest planned yet. I did say that I want to squeeze one in this year. Maybe I'll try to as we get closer to fall and winter. Just got to decide what it is. Last one. Crazy how long it's been since the last one. I mean, time flies. Lord have mercy. Time flies. Last one being the Heritage Contest, our 5th one. I definitely think, there's unlimited potential to do a anime one. I think it'd be cool to do a sports team one. I know not everybody's a sports fan, but you could say that about anime as well. Not everybody's an anime fan, but sports team I think could be really cool. One that Jason always wanted to do that we thought would be crazy was like a line work challenge, to where you could do any type of design. It doesn't matter what shoe, but you have to incorporate wicked line work in there. I thought that was a very interesting one. You know what I mean? Just where you give a really broad concept like that, line work, and see where artists take it. So just got to decide on the theme. Let's see here. Noog the DJ says, peace fam, I customized an old pair of Air Force Ones, but I threw my hat in the ring. I would love for you to look at my work and give me your thoughts. I love your work. Thanks. Yeah, man, for sure. Let me know if you want me to check out your Instagram. I'll be glad to check those out. Let me know what your handle is. Okay, Nuno here says, between the stitches in the upper without too much paint. So there's a few different things. One thing that some people do that I think is extra, takes takes more work, but is something that you can consider doing is when the shoe, before the shoe is like entirely painted, sometimes they'll take Angelus paint, mix it with Too Soft, and paint that just along the stitching area, and then they'll go back with the Q-tip and acetone all of the rest of the paint off. But when you have that thinned out paint with the Too Soft, it really helps it soak into the stitches. And then you acetone the rest off so that you don't have Angelus paint and Too Soft sitting on any of the main leather areas, because that wouldn't hold up as well. So that's one thing. I think that you can get by without doing that just by having good quality brushes and doing really nice thin layers. You don't need a ton of paint on your brush. You need less than you probably think. And then just really nice thin layers. Make sure you're really spreading that paint, and you'll be good to go from there. TPJ Second Gen says, am I doing anything wrong? Most of the time, if I make what I want, it will sit for a while before selling. If I make a popular design, it's gone within a few weeks. No, I don't think that you're doing anything wrong. I think that sometimes if you're trying to develop a style, it takes a while for it to connect with people. It's not guaranteed that just because you start doing something that's original or that you're doing something experimental where you're starting to develop your own style, that doesn't mean that people are going to like it right away. That doesn't mean that it's even good. You know, I'm not saying that it's bad, but you know, when you're putting out something that's recognizable, that's hype, or that people are more familiar with, something as common as LV Air Force Ones, you know, people's brains are way more trained to think instantly without thinking. That's cool, or I like that. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're doing something very new and different, their brains aren't necessarily going to be trained to, that's cool, I want that. Or because if it's an LV stuff, our brains are, again, without thinking, trained to, that's cool, that's limited, I want that, you know, that's rare. Whereas if you're doing something original that's totally different, maybe it's just not connecting with people yet, you know? So that's not to say that it won't, but you got to give it time, you got to be patient, and you just got to continue to do it. You know what I mean? Continue to put out more of your stuff. I haven't posted them yet, but I will contact you as soon as I do. Okay, cool, man. Sounds good. Sounds good. Emma's Custom Sneaker Shop says, okay, thank you for the tips. I'll be ordering the shoes soon and look forward to seeing the shoes I order. Name our shoes, maybe being on the channel, but could you do name our kids Air Forces? Sure could. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Ghost Mike here says, have you ever tried to replace parts on sneakers like a whole toe box, a side panel, using a sewing machine just to change the material, like adding croc leather, fabric, or other things? I have not, Mike. I'm very fascinated by the idea. Recon work is something that I would love to get into more. I just need to carve out the time for myself to really practice the craft. I know that like the way that I like to learn or take on new things like that is I have to carve out a chunk of time and just dedicate myself to that and nothing else. So I just haven't forced myself to carve out that time to say, okay, I'm going to work on this every single day for the next month or so. And I'm only going to be doing recon work. And that's the way that my brain sort of works best for me to learn a new aspect of the craft. Tempest here says, what's the ultimate finisher? Because I'm still confused on the Duller, matte Forecoat, matte acrylic finisher, or all the other finisher products. Is Duller just now outdated? What's the difference? Great question. I did a full video on this. I will just reference that video here in case anybody else wants to check it out, just for an even more detailed explanation on it. But then I will certainly talk about, you know, the answers to some of that. But I did a video here that you can check out. Let's see. Switch over. So the video's here. You can see on our page. If you want to search this up, is this the best finisher for custom sneakers? So it's a 6-minute video, walks you through some visual comparisons of this versus liquid kicks, talking about all of that. But to answer some of the, so if you mixed a little bit of Duller into your finisher, then now you could give it a more matte look. But that was an extra step that you had to do. So sometimes it was easier if you just mix the duller into some of your paint. I actually thought that it made painting sometimes seem even easier if it had a little bit of duller in there. Sometimes certain colors were even easier to paint. So anyways, then when Liquid Kicks came out, all of a sudden you were now able to get a really nice, clean, even matte finish. And then Angelus dropped their 4-coat, and those two products just completely changed the game, that you no longer need to use any duller. And now, just at the very end of a project, you can apply 2 layers of this top coat and completely get whatever desired sheen you need. So the duller no longer necessary. The matte 4-coat versus the matte acrylic finisher. The matte acrylic finisher is a water-based finisher. The matte 4-coat is a urethane-based finisher. So what that means is it provides a very, 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 very minimal amount more of scratch protection. Because what's actually happening, a way that you could think about it when you're applying a urethane-based finisher like this is, let's say on like a very, very micro scale, there's almost like a film across the entire project. So what that's doing is it will very slightly protect it against, scratches, scuffs, little nicks and knacks and things like that. But it's not, no finisher protects from cracking. No finisher is going to have any impact on something like that if the shoes weren't prepped correctly, if they weren't painted correctly, if you're painting on a material that you shouldn't be painting, things like that. No finisher is going to have any impact on that. So yeah, that I think that answers most of it about the finishers. So there's no longer a reason to use like just regular standard matte finish, the matte acrylic finisher, in my opinion. Just use the matte 4-coat. So yeah. Pamela says, "Hi Dylan, when is the next sneaker review? Thanks." I would probably say that we're, if I had to guess when that episode would go up, probably a few months away. But we do have some coming up here soon. LA6 Lakers says, "I want to put a UV LED into a pair of of the Mummy SB Dunks. I'm thinking that you do something like a soul swap, but I don't know the best way to drill / cover the LED strip." I gotta be honest, I haven't done something like that before, but I would probably check out the Reshoevnator YouTube channel page, because Vic Almighty, their in-house customizer, has done some really cool like LED work and crazy stuff like that on soul swaps and all that. So I would probably guess that you might be able to see, you'd probably be able to get some ideas and maybe even some tutorials on doing something like that. Yep. Josh Shields here says, "I've watched the cleat prep video many times. I just wanted to know, is there any updates to that process? I'm just getting started on custom cleats." Nope, prep's still the same. My recommendation in terms of, I think it's better to airbrush than hand paint. Finishers that, should be used. All of that would still be the same. Assuming you're talking about the video that I put out last year that I think was called like how to prep a cleat in under an hour. That is what I would say. See here. What do you think is better when you're a rookie? Explore freehand drawing or jump straight on stencils? So, I think a lot of different artists would give you different answers here. Like, I can only answer the way that I think. I can only answer for myself. I'm not a freehand drawer. I would not consider myself, I would not say I'm a drawer. I would not consider myself a good drawer. So I think it'd be very, very, very weird and hypocritical for me to recommend or tell people they need to be a good drawer, you know what I mean? Because it's not something that I practice myself. So just do it when, if that's what you think is best and you want to have that ability to be able to take a character and freehand it in different ways to do different poses and do different things like that, then go for it. But someone like me, I just think that I'm a really good. I think that I'm able to paint anything that's needed to be painted, but I think that I can take an image and I can still change it if I need to, but I can replicate any image. I'm almost like I consider myself to have the ability to almost like I can photocopy an image from the internet onto a shoe. That's what I believe my skill is, rather than taking a character, knowing the source material, and then freehanding it onto the shoe. You know what I mean? So when you're a rookie, I think do like what do you want to have the ability to do next year or 2 years from now when somebody commissions you to do, um, you know, a cool piece of whatever source material you're interested in, whether that's like a sports team theme shoe or an anime pair of shoes. Let's say you were, starting to really grow as an artist. Do you want to do you picture yourself doing stencils, or do you picture yourself having the ability to freehand draw? You know what I mean? And whichever one you think is best for you, then get a head start on that now. I've been doing this for a long time and I still don't ever foresee myself to need the ability to freehand draw Goku on my shoes, just because I think that there's enough imagery out there that I could find Goku in every single pose imaginable. You know what I mean? So yeah. Josiah here says, "Hi, when it comes to custom shoes, I tend to compare myself to other artists and become upset. How did you tackle this issue when you were more of a rookie?" That's a great question. Comparison syndrome, something that, everybody deals with. Everybody deals with. But just know that everybody's journey is different. The people that you're comparing yourself to might have been doing it for a lot longer, even if they haven't, even if they got started at the same time. Maybe they have more of a totally different background in terms of how long they've been doing art, things like that. If you're comparing yourself in terms of, hey, that person gets way more views or likes on their content, or they get more sales or whatever, you just can't worry about those things. You can only focus on what you can control, and you can't control other people, obviously. You know what I mean? So, but it's good to look at data sometimes and look at, maybe if you see, hey, that person is growing faster than me, maybe look at why and say, what are they doing differently and what can I learn from them? Sometimes think of it like that. What can I learn from that artist? And maybe they're growing because they're doing a totally different form of content than you. Maybe they're doing some types of reels or video content, or taking better photos or something that you could look at and objectively say, yeah, you know what? They're crushing it in terms of how they're creating content or what they're creating content with. And maybe I can learn that from them and try to do some of that. So yeah, don't fall into that trap of just, letting yourself feel bad because maybe somebody else is growing faster, or maybe you feel they're a better artist. You have no idea what their background is. I don't necessarily know your background either. Maybe you have more stuff going on in your personal life. Maybe you still are working a job. Maybe you have more stuff going on with your family. Maybe you're a parent. Maybe you're dealing with kids. Maybe you have other stuff going on with your family, and somebody else may be able to dedicate everything and not have to worry about any of that stuff. So totally different things. Don't get caught up in just comparing yourself, Jerry Yan here says, "Is there to paint or airbrush the bottoms of shoes? Anyone with tips?" Unfortunately, my tips would be just to avoid it, because they're just going to crack. You know what I mean? That's going to be the first thing to wear off and chip over time. Paint and rubber just do not bond, unfortunately. Fly Off here says, "Saw you on YouTube like 2 days ago and I've been binge watching all your tutorial videos. I already bought everything I need to make customs." Awesome, man. Very cool. Look forward to hopefully seeing some of your work. What airbrush do you recommend? I still recommend the Badger Patriot 105. David ML says, "Do you have to have the leather prepped if you're going to be painting it?" You sure do. Sure do. Raw Authentic Apparel says, "What is the best place to purchase shoes?" Totally depends on what type of shoes you're referring to. If you're just talking about your standard Air Force Ones, Jordans, Vans, whatever, purchase them from, your local sort of mall shops, your Foot Locker, your Champs. Maybe you have a Nike store nearby, any of those. But if you need something, that's maybe a little bit more exclusive or harder to find, your StockX, your Goat, your eBay, those are the places that I would recommend. My favorite part of that video was the review of the Posca paint. Yeah, talking about the video where I talked about all my supplies and I had the Posca pens right in the middle. That was Good callback. Good callback, man. That's funny. Hash C says, I was looking at converting a retro into a bowling shoe. Do you think a 4 or 1 would be better? Oh, very cool. I think a Jordan 1 is like just the silhouette is one of the most iconic silhouettes of all time, so recognizable to anybody. But I think a Jordan 4 is so unique that like it's way less known to just your average Joe Bob walking down the street. But for real, people that are sneakerheads or enjoy sneakers, if they saw a Jordan 4 that was converted into a bowling shoe, they would be like, what on earth? That is, I've never seen anything like that. You know what I mean? So I think that would be super cool. Do the Jordan 4, and I'd love to check them out when you do. Let's see here. Which is better, Angelus DeGlazer or Acetone? Both of them are going to get the job done for you. But Acetone you can pick up at your local hardware store, so that's nice. Dude, thank you so much. That was very informative. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for all you do. Awesome, man. Glad that I was able to help there. Glad that I was able to help. Mix KTV says, when using stencils, do airbrushes just give you a better finish than using a normal paintbrush? Are you talking about vinyl stencils or sort of like pattern or texture stencils? Because the answer is yes to both of them, but the reasons why are going to be different. So if we're talking about like pattern stencils or texture ones, like let me grab one real quick. If we're just talking about like a pattern like this where it's like these texture streaks, the reason that it's better to paint with a airbrush with these is because not all of the time, but a lot of the time you want that texture to almost fade in and out of the shoes. You want it to just sort of fade off into nothing. Whereas if you're painting with a paintbrush, that's a lot harder to do. You know what I mean? You have to be, quite frankly, incredible with a brush to be able to achieve that. But with an airbrush, you can just there's a lot of different ways you could do it in terms of pulling back physically from the stencil or flicking your wrist away from the stencil. A lot of different ways you could go about achieving that. But that's why airbrushing is the desirable look if you're doing something like this. Or, for example, if you had another one like this where you had this pattern, you might where this tends to look really nice is if you start to shoot sort of, I shoot it in one tiny area. I'm essentially trying to spray at one center point here, and then that's how you're going to get that nice faded out look. So that's why airbrushing is better if you're using those types of stencils. But if you're referring to doing like a logo or something like that with vinyl, the reason that airbrushing is better, in my opinion, is because you're always going to apply less paint with an airbrush rather than with a paintbrush. So therefore, you are a lot less likely, and you're just going to end up doing thinner coats. So okay, two main factors there. Forgive me, my brain starts really racing, and how can I best explain this? But since you apply less paint with an airbrush than with a paintbrush, you're less likely to have any paint leak underneath that stencil. And since less paint is applied, you're going to be doing thinner layers that once that color is actually solid and you peel back that vinyl, since those layers are thinner on a very microscopic level, you're not going to end up with that thicker paint buildup that sometimes can happen, around the edges of a stencil to where, okay, clearly a lot of layers were painted here and it's actually thicker where you lay down that stencil. So, yeah. Nuno here says, when portraying or making a draw just like the SpongeBob you made, how many layers of the outline did you do? Just one. Just one is all that's needed. Ghost Mike says, I'm a medium drawer, but I'm afraid to ruin the shoes, so I'm more confident with stencils. Yeah, for sure. I mean, with the stencil, at least you're going to be able to nail the proportions and where things are supposed to be. So Pamela here says, any recommendations on customizing baseball gloves? I'm doing one for the first time, applying the same sneaker knowledge, basically. I think I shouldn't touch the inner side. Very cool. That's awesome, Pamela. I've never painted a baseball glove before. But yeah, I probably wouldn't paint the inside of the glove either, especially depending on if this is for like a little leaguer or somebody who plays baseball at a higher level. But, you know, when a ball contacting that leather, there's a lot of contact, and to, you know, if a ball is thrown fast enough, it would for sure scuff any paint off on the inside, but on the outside there's way less contact with the ball and stuff. So yeah, being that, you know, hopefully you're actually working with an even higher quality of leather, you would be able to follow, you know, a lot of the same principles that are used on shoes. So good luck with that. Good luck with that. Regarding the freehand draw, I see customizers first using a pen, graphite question mark, to draw the basis. But is this thin pen layer a problem for the paint that will be on top of it to stick well? Probably not. It shouldn't be. Laying it down, it's not going to prevent the paint from sticking to the shoe. No. Yep. I've been doing it for years and I've still yet to find proper traction. It happens. Are you talking about, which part are we talking about, Jacob? Getting people to enjoy your style, or were we talking about something else? A technical question or something? Swagmaster Flex with some great advice here says, if you get jealous, you will never become better. Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. I think it's good, though, to look at your competition, study your competition, and objectively view it and say, what are they doing that I could learn from? You know what I mean? What are they doing better than me? Take a hard look in the mirror and say, okay, maybe that person's growing. Why? You know what I mean? Try to question everything, and then try to answer some of those questions. Why is that person growing faster than me? You know what I mean? Why is that person getting more sales than me? What are they doing that I'm not? Is that because of their content? Is that because of their art style? Do people enjoy their art style more than me? You know what I mean? Yeah. Last question, but can you do name awareness face also on kids cleats? It might be hard for you. That's why I'm running. I don't want to pressure you. I can handle anything you throw my way, Emma. Royalty, how you doing, buddy? Hey, Dylan, I just got here. Do you think the quality of materials used by Nike Jordan affects the process of customizing? Yeah, for sure. Certain shoes are going to have better quality materials. Air Forces continue to have less quality leather, versus if you're working on a nicer, more expensive pair of Jordans, those will paint drastically differently um, than certain other shoes. Yeah. So like those, I showed them earlier in the stream, and I know you saw them, man. But the Dior Jordan 4s that I did, um, those were on a military black Jordan 4, much nicer quality shoe than your standard white Air Forces or something like that. These as well. These this is, I want to say this colorway is the Stealth Jordan 1s. What shoe did I do with these? The Bel Air, or the 90s were here Jordan 1s from a couple months back that were a part of that Recreating Your Design series. Those were on this shoe, and this is a much higher quality leather than like the triple white Jordan 1 mids. So yeah, for sure. For sure, man. Jacob says, just in terms of looking at others and seeing them grow faster than you and think of things that nature, just got to focus on what I can. As you said, situations are different for everybody. Yeah, for sure. For sure. You know, you can't, there's a saying here. Comparison is the thief. Let me Google it real quick. See if it comes up. Like, I want to say comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison. Yeah, comparison is the thief of joy. Teddy Roosevelt. When we compare ourselves to others, we are often left feeling inadequate and unhappy. Yeah, I agree with that. I would agree with that. Let's see here. Flyoff says you should do a hydro dip film video. I can't lie, I'm not interested in hydro dipping. I did do a hydro dip video in 2019, but that would have been with the spray paints. So it's just not something it's not something that I would do on like a commissioned piece or anything like that. So if you have to choose website or link tree and why. So I definitely believe in creating your own website for sure. They're almost like two different things. We're almost comparing apples to oranges here. A link tree is good to link to multiple things. So like you throw a link tree up in your Instagram. Um, if you want to link to your YouTube, you want to link to your website, you want to link to other things as well. You know what I mean? Maybe other affiliate things. But a website is just a great place for you to potentially be discovered, you know, a home base for you, a place to show your portfolio, something like that. So yeah, my answer to that would be both. Have both. Have a website and a link tree. I have a link tree up in my my Instagram, and one of the links is to my website. So Tabkill says, "Why is my question getting skipped?" I do not see it. Forgive me if it has at all. Chat is we've had a super busy chat today. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you wouldn't mind, throw up a like on the stream. Definitely helps the channel, helps the page continue to grow. But let me know what your question is, and I will try to get that answered for you, Tabkill. Try to get to as many as we can here. Let me know if you guys want me to check out some Instagrams as well. If you want to have your Instagram checked out, let's do it. Give me some of those handles. Speaking of material quality, I've just received a second-hand pair of Air Force One mids from 2008. Leather was way better at that time. Yeah, I was going to say an incredibly weird example, but years back in 2013, Jordan released the Fire Red Jordan 3s. And that was like, this was during a time when everybody was customizing Jordan 3s, and the Fire Red 3s were the most popular base because they had a gray outsole, gray sock liner, mostly white upper. So you could do almost any theme with them. And I remember one time on eBay, I would purchase a lot of my base shoes on eBay. I purchased a pair of Fire Red 3s. They ended up being a pair from 2007 rather than 2013. This might have been like 2014 or maybe even 2013. I didn't read the description enough to know that it was an older pair, and the leather quality was way, 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 way better. Way better. Tabkill here says, I want to customize an Air Jordan 1 Low or Dunk Low with 3 colors in total. What do you think would you prefer? First customization for me, second attempt. Are you asking me what colors do I recommend? Because boy, oh boy, that's almost an impossible. That's almost an impossible question to answer. Just on what colors I would recommend. I would just love to know more about. I just have to know more about. Are you trying to go super loud with them? Are you trying to, you know, what are you trying to do with them? I'll actually show you something really cool though. Let's do this with everybody. You guys are recommending some great ones in here as well. I'm gonna pull up a website real quick, and I think this will be beneficial for everybody. Yeah, this is really cool. Ba ba ba. I'm going to show you guys 2 websites. Okay, screen. Okay, so I showed this one in a recent video. You guys have probably seen this. This is colorhunt.co. But you can just come on here and there's a ton of great random color palettes. You could search by pastel colors, you could search warm colors, you could search winter colors, you could search earth tones, so much to pick from. But there's another website here. This is Canva's Color Wheel. And what you could do here is you could go to complementary colors, so colors that are, opposite on the color wheel. And it'll tell you if I like um, this type of blue, it might recommend me to do an orange. Obviously, us knowing blue and orange being complementary colors, but also look, if you went with this shade of blue, it's still very blue, but it almost it tells you the complementary rather than a certain orange would be this type of almost neon yellow, neon green type color. But anyways, we could go to, instead of our color combination being complementary colors, we could go to triadic and it would tell you 3 color combinations. And again, like let's just say for sure I want to go with like a Tiffany gift box blue. Let's say that's right there. It might tell you to play with these other types of, this pink and yellow or something like that. But you can just play around and get a lot of different color combinations from here. And again, there's just a lot of different options of things that you could play with just to generate color palettes and, get your mind thinking. So sometimes this is all it takes is going on websites like this just to get those creative juices flowing rather than, for me at least, rather than staring at a blank canvas forever and just saying, I just have no clue what to do. You know what I mean? Oh, so that wasn't even what you were asking at all. But anyways, still helpful. No, I'm asking which shoe do you think is easier to customize with 3 colors and which one is getting smoother? And the question was an Air Jordan 1 low or a Dunk low. Both of them have extremely similar color blocking. Both of them are pretty much laid out the same way. So I would go with the Dunk low though. I would go with the Dunk low. YouTube randomly recommended your channel. Now I'm customizing shoes, even though I don't know much about sneakers. That is incredible to hear. I love to hear that. That's awesome. Dave says, is there any chance you'll create a video version of your workshop in the future? No, there will not be, Dave, because to me, the experience is meant to be just that, an experience. It's meant to be something that can only be witnessed in person, that is only meant for the 15 people that attend that weekend. It's limited, it's exclusive. I want to turn it into a must-see event. It's like thinking of how we're just almost like a spectacle of, think of like, when a big movie releases where it's not the same anymore because now we're also inundated with so much streaming and so many options, and now it's just not as important. But when you used to look forward to that movie's coming out this day and it's a huge thing, like when each of the prequels of the Star Wars movies came out in 99 and '02 and then '05, and it was a huge thing. But now when there's a new Star Wars just every week and every month, and Marvel has 50 million TV shows, and now it's not as big. And so I just want it to be this very limited special thing that and I know that I can certainly provide the most value in person. You know what I mean? Hands-on training, the way that, the topics we're able to cover and the way that you're able to learn is just infinitely different what you can learn in person than on a YouTube video. You know what I mean? So, believe me, I get asked all the time, would you create an online course? I just think that my YouTube page is your free online course. There's 300 videos that you can learn from. But I just want I know that if I turned a video version, I would make way more money just allowing people to join remotely or something like that. But I believe in the product so much that I want the course to be an in-person limited, just very, very special thing. So yeah, speaking on that, if anybody's interested in attending, I have it linked in the description of this video, where you could head to our website, but we still have some spots available for the DCF Experience number 5. That is coming up. We are 7 weeks away today. So that is August 11th, 12th, and 13th here in Chicago. Like I said, we still have a few spots available. Let me go ahead and I'll just pull that up real quick. So you could see here, switch over screen. Okay, so I'm in the top right corner. But you can see everything that comes with it. So it's 3 days, and we provide absolutely everything for you. So 2 pairs of shoes, airbrush and compressor, paints, paintbrushes, stencils, everything. You don't need to bring anything other than yourself, and it's all yours to take home as well. And yeah, it's a blast, man. It's something that, boy oh boy, I still, after doing 4 of them, I still get butterflies, on the day of and the week after with how fun it is to do something like this. And one of my favorite parts is watching people continue to grow after and seeing where they take, this hobby or this craft, what they end up doing with it. It's really cool to follow people on their journey afterwards. So if you're interested in attending, we would love to have you. For anybody who is still thinking about it, still on the fence, still have a few spots available, and it's a great time. It is a great time, that's for sure. Let's see. I learned a lot from the YouTube videos, even from the 10-hour video. I need to do another one of those. I need to do another long form stream. I do. Yeah, we got a couple classmates here, course mates, Jacob and Gautier coming all the way from France, man. Love it. Shonda here says, I've seen quite a few people paint the entire sole and seal it. Do you know what they are sealing it with? And would you recommend painting the sole if the shoe is going to be worn? Absolutely not. Just because you're seeing a picture of it, or just because you're seeing a video of someone painting it, you're not seeing a video or picture of it being worn. You're not seeing the after. You know what I mean? You're just seeing the paint go on. You could put paint on anything. That doesn't mean it's going to stay on, So... Royalty Custom Sneaker here says, any advice on getting more consistent viewership on YouTube? I started back in October and post once a month. Views have been dropping off recently. Post your link to your YouTube here in the chat. So everybody in this, chat probably enjoys custom sneakers. I'm sure they would dig some of the content. But let me, was your most recent video? I remember I think I watched the most recent one. It was it the, which shoes were they? Trying to think of what your most recent video was. Oh, the was it the, yeah, the Spider-Man one. Okay. Let's see. Let me switch over here. Screen. Okay. So I would say LeBron 20 Tiffany custom. I just think none of you, I think you could clickbait a lot more, truthfully. In terms of your titles and your thumbnails, I think you could clickbait a lot more. Uh, Even going to, let's say you know that you're making a Spider-Man Jordan 1 low, something that you could do is go on Chat GPT, use AI to your advantage, and say, help me generate 10 different YouTube video titles with the goal, help me create 10 viral YouTube video titles about a video where I hand paint Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Jordan 1s, and ChatGPT will give you um, some really cool ideas. You know what I mean? Little things like that to help come up with better titles, and then, make sure you have um, you want your title and your thumbnail to work together. You know what I mean? So something that a lot of people do, not that you've done it in a lot of these, but if you have text in the thumbnail, it should almost not be the same text that's in the title. So for example, you have a video titled how to create easy sneaker mockups, and then also on the thumbnail it says how to make custom mockups. You want those, if you have text in the thumbnail and the title, you want those to work together, not just be the same thing. It's pointless for them to be the same thing. So, like, the text in the thumbnail should almost be something that further enhances the title. This makes things much easier. That's too long of text, but you want them to play together, your text that's in your thumbnail and in your title. Something like that. So, Kit Customs here has a great question. How would you regain balance with orders? Really trying to get ahead, but it's a constant feeling of drowning and anxiety. I want to put up my prices, but also be in good terms with consistent clients. This is a really, really, really good question. Um, so something that I said yes to everything for years. I truly didn't say no to a single project for many, many, many years. And it really is a powerful tool to be able to say no. And what I mean by that is being able to say no to projects that maybe they don't creatively fuel you, maybe they that's almost one of the main ones, don't creatively fuel you, or what, I don't need to say yes to that because it's not, I'm not, it sounds like you're growing, so I no longer need to take on every project imaginable just to pay the bills. You know what I mean? And yeah, of course, if you're, there's a saying that barbers say that, in a weird way applies to a lot of the custom sneaker space. But if you're too busy, you're too cheap. That's something that a lot of barbers say. And I think there's certainly something to that. And you absolutely should be raising your prices over time, even with those consistent clients. There is no doubt that your prices, no matter what, should be going up at bare minimum 10% a year. You know what I mean? And that may not sound like a lot, but if you go from, on average, I'm selling my artwork on a lot of shoes that maybe I'm able to do in a day or two for, $250. Okay, 10% of that, $25. Now instead of 250, now it's 275. But that's just over time, you know what I mean? Even for those people that you've been on a long-term basis with. I have clients that I've had for 8 years, for many, many years, where even if my prices have literally 10x'd over time, I'm not able to charge them 10 times what I originally did, but these little increases here and there sort of help keep up with that. You know what I mean? I have, like I said, some NFL players where, maybe I was starting off doing cleats for 150, 200, 250 bucks per pair, but where now if somebody brand new reaches out, it might be somewhere between 800 to 1200 for a single pair of cleats. You know what I mean? So I can't necessarily charge 1200 to somebody who has been paying 250 or 300 for years, but I need to increase that a little bit over time, and just not saying yes to everything, being able to say no to some stuff will absolutely help you. But yeah, if you just stay in that hamster wheel of just taking on everything, it is very possible and easy for you to potentially burn out. You know what I mean? And that's not what you want. And also, this is something I really, 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 really struggled with. But when I was just always taking on too much, that never leaves you any time at all to focus on bigger things in the business. How am I going to expand this business? What are new things that I can do to advertise, to market this business? How am I going to grow this business so that I'm not just taking on this type of workload forever? You know what I mean? So yeah, I totally get that. I totally get that. For sure, up those prices without a doubt. And you need to have time to think of how are you going to grow the business. And that is really, really hard to do when you are a commission-based artist, because I struggled with this for years. I just remember thinking, if I'm not painting every shoe if I had 10 open orders, my time is best spent knocking out those 10 orders, because that is, I'm only making money when I have a paintbrush in my hand. You know what I mean? I'm only making money when I'm working on those commissions. But if I'm setting aside time to think or to plan out stuff for the business, in my dumb brain, I used to think I'm not making money. My brain was poorly trained to think this is the wrong thing to do. You need to get back over there, put the paintbrush in your hand, and try to knock out any open orders you have. You know what I mean? So hopefully that helps. Howdy, howdy. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully everything went smooth over there for you. Nate here says, I'm thinking of customizing my first pair of shoes, and I was wondering what type of style I should go for. Is there anything you could recommend? I was thinking of doing a cartoon style. Nate, I have a 2-part video series that I did last year, and I think it's called something like 20 ideas for your first custom sneaker that I for sure would check out. And like I said, it's a 2-part video, so there's another. I think the second one might not have 20, but it might be called like 20 more ideas for your first custom shoe or for your next custom shoe. Check those out, and I just walk through a ton of different ideas. But a cartoon style, it's in that video. It's for sure one of those recommendations. So yeah, you can't go wrong with good cartoon theme. Kid Customs follows up, but that's huge, brother. Thanks so much for the feedback. Definitely gave me a sense of clarity to get off that hamster wheel. Everything you've said is exactly how I feel. Thanks so much. Hey, glad to help, man. I've been there, I promise you. And you want to know what's on the other side in this situation? The grass is greener, because when I learned to say no to things, when I learned to how can I grow the business, things really shifted in the business for me. That's when I grew the most. Because like I said, for years I was just, let me knock out every possible order I have, and I just never allowed myself time to focus on anything else, and it was just, let's get to that next piece, let's get to that next order. But when you're just doing that, you're not able to grow your brand name enough to where I want you to go from selling $200 shoes to $400 shoes, and then from 400 to 600, and then from 600 to 800, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, your prices will start at 1,000. You know what I mean? So for sure. Vlad here says, I love what you do for the craft. Thank you. Question: I've seen people use glitter on cleats, just glued on, sealed somehow. Can't imagine glitter all in my football bag. So many questions, Vlad. So it depends. It depends how like extreme the glitter is. Sometimes it is sprayed, glued on. There is a product called glitter lights. I will try to show here real quick. I've only used it, and it's not a full all over glitter theme, but it does have some glitter. I did these Nipsey Jordan 1s where you could see they have some glitter on the swoosh and some glitter on certain parts of the upper. And yeah, this is essentially, so for something like this, you paint the entire shoe blue first, and then you finish it off with like 2 coats of the glitter lights, and then you're able to achieve that effect. So this is something that's still durable and wearable. It's not glitter that rubs off or anything like that. It's not sprayed or glued on. A great question. Jesse here says, I've had people reach out to me with questions on how to customize shoes. How do I prevent imposter syndrome because I don't feel like I'm at a point to give advice? It's a great question, Jesse. Because when I started, essentially on YouTube, I didn't start YouTube with the goal of creating tutorials. Like we even have some deleted videos, but the first videos that I put out on YouTube weren't tutorials. I just wanted to showcase what I was working on. And so it's not like I necessarily felt comfortable enough or felt I was some expert in the industry to do so. But someone like yourself who's really growing in the industry, you're more than qualified to answer questions. Even if you don't have the answer to everything, there's a good chance that somebody's reaching out to you because you have a couple years of experience under your belt. This might be somebody brand new who's maybe still never even painted a shoe. And so you have, 2 years or so or whatever of experience that you could talk on. And, you have a interesting viewpoint that this was you probably not too long ago who didn't know where to start. And, now you can recommend things to start with. And, hey, this would, here's some of the process, these are some of the supplies, things like that. You could still be very beneficial to somebody who's starting out for sure. So yeah, like at the end of the day, they're reaching out because you did something that was worthy of being asked about. You know what I mean? It's not like they're reaching out asking you how to if somebody reached out to me and asked how do I don't know anything about cars. Dillon, how do I change something on, in this Mustang or whatever that we were talking about earlier? I'm not qualified to answer that at all because I have no experience with it, but you have, plenty of experience now doing shoes. So yeah, just once you start answering it, you'll realize, yeah, I could talk about this type of stuff. It's something that I do. It's something that I've done a bunch of times. So why can't I talk about it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Is there an age limit on starting a custom shoe business? There is not. Let me see. I'm gonna answer this one, and then I gotta get to some Instagrams. I said that earlier. I know you guys posted some, so I'm gonna do that. Photoshop Basic says, I had a problem sending internationally because there is a border custom that decides if either it is allowed to pass the border or not because you can't legally change the sneaker design. Any tips? I guess it would depend on. I can't say for sure. It depends on where you're sending from and where you're sending to. Maybe it would be different if you marked it as a gift rather than merchandise being sold. That would probably be the loophole, if I had to guess, that you would probably want to do. And then from there, who's to say that it's even, even if it is, the sneaker design is changed, even if they were to customs to open it up, who's to say that this was changed? You know what I mean? So that's that. As of now, without knowing more factors, that's probably what I would say. Okay, let's see here. JC Tech starts says, I'm working on an NBA Hall of Fame coach, Pop Spurs Air Force One, driving to the Hall of Fame from Texas, Massachusetts. Wow, very cool. Shout out to the Spurs. Just got Wemby too, man. They just got Wemby. They show did. Okay, Mario Restores here says, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Let's see, Mario. Let's see how we can help you. We don't have time. We don't have too long either. Only be able to get to a couple today. Mario Restores. Switch over. All right. Mario Restores. New Life Kicks affiliate, referral link, discount code. Okay, so I don't know what New Life Kicks is. But first off, since right here in the description, since this is not a clickable link, right away, what you need to do is set up a link tree so that where you have your YouTube linked, you could put a link tree and then you could link your YouTube and you could have that referral link. Because with the referral link, essentially you're hoping to make some money from it if anybody purchases. So just getting a link tree will help you out there. Let's see what else you got going on the page. These are dope. Real clean. I don't think you're doing anything wrong, Mario. I think your page is dope. I think restorations are always really hard to take. How do you, photograph these? Because just for example, these Alexander McQueen's right here, this one, this cover photo, I almost think you need to, if I were a restorer, I think I would almost have the cover photo right here since you have the carousel that people can swipe through. I might design the cover photo to have text and be a split image where it says before and after. You know what I mean? So then people are more intrigued to want to click it and swipe through to see even more of the before and after. But when just your main base photo for a lot of these restorations is the dirty shoes, to me, somebody who's weird and thinks about this stuff, it's just not as pleasing to the eye to have this. Think of this as your portfolio. So here on my portfolio, I'm showing these dirty shoes. Now I understand you work with dirty shoes, but still, I just think there's a way graphically with a little bit of a graphic that we could clean this up. Because from what I could tell, it looks like you have a little bit of know-how with some Photoshop. So I would do something like that. This is a sick shot too. That's a great shot. This is awesome. So you were interviewed by the news? Very cool. That's an awesome looking shoe too, man. Yeah, look at that. That's killer. Light the beam, baby. Kings were fun this year. Yeah, I dig those. I dig those. Let's see your reels. How are some of these performing? Okay. So why does this one have 8,000 views? Well, that's different. Is it just a little bit of that satisfaction of... Yeah. People always dig that. People always dig seeing the paint go on nice and slow. So yeah, I mean, you see that one worked. Do more of that now, you know? What is this one? All unweeding. I want to see the result of this pattern. Do you show it go on the shoes? I can skip ahead. Okay, so it's just you unweeding. I like this. This is a cool breakdown where you talk about the different, a lot of the different details that you incorporated into the shoe. That's dope. I dig that. I like that one. Just a little before and after, or just a before. Let's see. Yep, that was clean. My suggestion is that probably could have been cut in half, however long this is. Let's see, how long is this? Is this like a 30-second video? Yeah, it should be like a 15-second video instead. But that's just purely based off of our somebody said something interesting the other day. They said that we don't have, which I don't think is entirely true, we don't have shorter attention spans. There's just more competition to grab your attention, which I think is partially true, but I do think we have shorter attention spans. So we're less likely to stick around for an entire video like that. But you asked, what am I doing wrong? I don't think you're doing anything wrong, man. I think you have a cool page. I think you're doing a good mix of everything. You're doing process reels. You know what I mean? You're doing your short form video content. You're posting cool photos. You're doing cool graphics and stuff like that. You're doing a lot of good stuff, Mario. You got a cool page, man. You got a cool page. Just more of the same, buddy. More of the same. Keep it up. Good work. Good work, man. Okay. So time actually flew a lot quicker than I thought. I do have to get out of here pretty soon. So let me just see what other things I might have missed. Andy says your videos are awesome guides, man. Help me big time doing my first pair. Very cool, man. Very cool. Thank you, Andy. Let's see. Jay Bristol here says, I'm not a shoe head, but I make great designs when they are brought to me. How can I get my knowledge up on what's happening in the shoe world? I was trying to look at your icon on YouTube to see what was on those Jordan 6s because they look cool, but I can't see. It's too small for me to see what's actually on them, but those look cool. So I'm not a shoe head, but I make great designs when they are brought to me. How can I get my knowledge up on what's happening in the shoe world? Honestly, like I feel your best bet is just going to be, following more of the sneaker blogs, like on Instagram. Follow your Nice Kicks, your sneaker news, your pages that post sneaker news and all of that type of stuff. I think those are going to be the best ways to stay up on, what's popular and whatnot. I think that's just sort of what you mean in terms of what's going on in the shoe world. Unless you're sort of asking what is, trendy in like the custom shoe world. Again, then even there, I would say follow some bigger custom shoe pages on Instagram that repost popular work, because then you could see what sort of styles are people digging nowadays and stuff. Even following some of the paint pages like Angelus Direct, they're reposting people's work, so you could see what a lot of people are doing and stuff. So Colorway says, hey Dylan, I do customs and restorations. Should I keep them separate? I don't think that you necessarily need to, because there absolutely is crossover that you might be able to get clients who want both. Or you might just find general clients that are just into shoes and maybe they want a custom, or maybe they say, okay, well, even if I don't want a custom, at least now I found somebody who I could count on for my next restoration or something like that. So I don't necessarily think that you need to. But, I do think there could be an argument why it might not be a bad idea, because then you could have an entire page just focus on restorations. So I can just try to be the best at that. Or same thing with customs. I could just try to be the best at that. So yeah, I could certainly see, some counterpoints for both. So all right, guys, that is going to be it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of DCF Live. Really appreciate it. We had a super busy, active chat all day today. This was a lot of fun. I'll be back for another episode of DCF Live. We do these every other Friday, 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'll be back 2 weeks from now. I will have a new video next week. It might be there's two possibilities of what the video might be, but we will have a good one. coming at you next week. I'm excited about it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully everybody has a great, safe, happy, healthy weekend. If you're interested in attending the DCF Experience, our next one is going to be August 11th, 12th, and 13th. You could sign up for that at the link in the description. We still have a few spots available. So really appreciate you guys. And that's going to be it for me. Peace.